The Donkey Kong Country games are hailed as some of Rareware's best work. It was debatably the start of their golden age, and it's not hard to see why. But you already know this. Saying the Donkey Kong Country games are masterpieces is like saying that parties are fun or pizza tastes good. It's one of those general statements that anyone, anywhere can say without being questioned. So because of that, I don't want to review Donkey Kong Country. The fact of the matter is that objectively reviewing this game is redundant and pointless. But I do want to talk about why I think this game is special on a personal level. Within the small YouTube community I seem to be a part of, it's common to celebrate April as the month of Donkey Kong. It's a month-long festival I really get into, even if I'm not the biggest Donkey Kong fan. But as of uploading this video, it is currently May, which is my personal Donkey Kong month. Donkey Kong Country is my favorite game for the Super Nintendo, and this is the month I will always associate with that game. And if you don't mind, I would like to take this time to share why that is. Reason 1. Donkey Kong has great game feel. There are a lot of video games out there, and while there are games that will be similar to each other in design, every game has a different creative vision that signifies a unique identity for each one. It's because of that there's an incredibly diverse selection of experiences to choose from. But no matter how different games will become, almost every single one is created to achieve one overall purpose: to be fun. While it's not a goal that every game can accomplish, there are many great examples of fun games, especially from the Super Nintendo era. While the context of DK's gameplay and level design are more tame and realistic compared to other 2D platformers of the time, the 3 Donkey Kong Country games are some of the most fun that one can find. Perhaps the most crowning achievement of these games is that all the levels adhere to player speed, with some exceptions. It's possible to achieve perhaps better performance if one were to take their time with the various levels, but being able to blaze through stages feels so much better. Donkey and Diddy move at reasonable walking and running speeds that make sense. The controls are tight, possibly the most tight control scheme I've ever experienced with a video game. And learning the controls allows players access to one of the best feeling moves in platforming history: the roll jump. Combine these 3 elements together and it creates the difference between casually playing DKC and speedrunning DKC. Now it takes a lot of skill to speedrun a game, whether you're using exploits or not. DKC is far from exempt from this, but it certainly has a lower barrier to entry. Donkey Kong has a very distinct flow to the gameplay. Levels rarely feel too long, which can result in a great feeling of progression if a lot are completed. You don't have to have AGDQ levels of skill to even feel like you're playing through the game at a fast pace, and that's what makes Donkey Kong Country's gameplay feel fun. Reason 2. The Donkey Kong lore. Despite this point sounding very silly and just being a joke between some of the people I call my friends, I actually mean this point unironically. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Donkey Kong Country instruction booklet. Like, no duh. But this is more than just a basic manual to refer to. This is a prime source of helpful information and just an entertaining read. DKC's manual explains everything that it needs to and then some, giving narrative reasoning to game mechanics and level theming you might not have thought about otherwise. If I were to ask you what the story of Donkey Kong Country was, what would you say? That's about DK being upset about his missing bananas and his quest to take them back from King K. Rool, right? And yes, that's true. But there's actually a lot more to it. What if I told you the backstory behind this game involves Diddy standing out in the rain, guarding the banana horde because this was his hero training, put in place by Donkey Kong, that the Kremlings desired the bananas because it was a treasure in potassium and vitamin A, that they caught Diddy by surprise and stuffed him in the nearest barrel, to then proceed to cleaning out the cave. That is when Donkey awoke the next morning and followed the trail of bananas dropped by the fleeing crocodiles. I'm serious, this is all in the manual. But even for the simple things you wouldn't expect to find such radical explanations for, the writers had covered as well. When consulting the booklet about the heads-up display, for example, the paragraph assumes the player would like to know where things such as the score, life bar, and speedometer are located. And the manual explains that every indicator you need rolls onto the screen when you need them and heads off when you're done with them. Like, what? Games don't do this anymore. Donkey Kong Country doesn't do this anymore. But OG DK does, and it's all the better for it. DKC was already a game with a lot of quality, and if that quality is also extended to some pieces of paper that will not get quite as much attention, that is a game that's clearly special, boasting itself in a way that's exaggerated but not harmful. Reason 3. I played this game on a Super Nintendo. While I've noticed that a great majority of Donkey Kong fans have pretty much been all their lives, I have no nostalgic connection to Donkey Kong Country. Aside from playing and loving Donkey Kong Country Returns, the only game from the series I had played prior was a brief session of Diddy's Conquest when I was about maybe 7 years old. Donkey Kong Country was absent from my life for a long time, at least until YouTube became a thing. Almost from the time when I first discovered what Let's Plays were, DKC was one of the games I happened to watch pretty frequently. But the day would come where I would enter that world for myself. It was May of 2013. I was 16, and I decided with the birthday money I saved from that year, I would buy myself a Super Nintendo. When I went browsing online, I only had 2 requirements: that the system itself was not turning yellow, and that it included Donkey Kong Country. 2 weeks and $70 later, the Super Nintendo was mine, and with it, the game I desired to play for such a long time. When I finally got the system out of the box, immediately I went to hook it up to my TV. Being able to slide that cartridge in and finally flipping the power switch to result in hearing that familiar Rareware jingle that is burned into the minds of those who hear it. I would have saved myself both time and money by just downloading the games digitally or playing them on an emulator, but I'm glad I actually got the Super Nintendo for this. While I do think that services such as Virtual Console have more benefits than cost, physical media will always have a value that cannot be captured by clicking some buttons on a scripted interface. Holding the Super Nintendo controller feels nothing like a Wii Classic controller, but in a good way. Even doing something so simple as holding the cartridge of DKC can make my hands shake out of excitement. That is why I will always prefer having physical copies of games rather than digital ones. I feel like it's a lot easier to imagine the possibilities of what lies beyond a game when it's right there in front of me, even if I know everything about it. Because that game has value, and that's something special. So, why bring this up? Because there's more to Game Feel than just playing a game. Donkey Kong Country is a game that feels good to play, but it also feels good for differing reasons. This game gives off a very unique vibe through the story it has. The story itself is very Saturday morning cartoon on a surface level, and under the surface is just a deeper, more self-aware Saturday morning cartoon. And playing that tightly controlling game, unlike any other, on the hardware it was designed for, is powerful. It's that combination of seemingly insignificant ideas that comes together to create something that's more than just the sum of its parts. Donkey Kong Country isn't a perfect game. The time that has passed on since 1994 has certainly given defined age to the game, especially when comparing it to how polished the other sequels are. But OG DKC remains my favorite game in the series, because I like the atmosphere that surrounds this game. It came into my life at the perfect time in the perfect way, and I was completely ready for it when it happened. As someone who's only just played this game for the first time just 3 years ago, I believe that this is the hypest game for the Super Nintendo. From my own personal experience, and being able to discuss it with other people are reasons why this game has become one of my favorites, period. So with each passing year, whenever the month of May comes around, I will always think of it as the month of Donkey Kong Country.